it, for lack of better words, just balance it out so that it got wet on one side and now it's going to be getting wet on the other side. We're not going to do that because for the sake of time, I've already taped it down with some blue tape. I don't like to use tape a lot because if water gets under there for whatever reason and I pull the tape, I could rip my painting. Always pull the tape away from the edge of your watercolor paper. So, with that in mind, I'm going to tilt my camera, and from time to time, I might tilt it back up just so I can check in with you guys. All right, so here we go. You're probably thinking, what are we going to be drawing today? So, we are actually going to be working on something. I kind of simplified these pieces. I thought, well, why don't we just zoom in on one of the water lilies, but make a lot of pads, of water pads, and really work on how to do a color wash and use lots of cool colors. Cool colors mean green and purples and blues, and maybe just have one pop of a warm color. So this is my rendition of his water lilies. He was an impressionistic painter, so I think it lends itself to watercolor because it doesn't have to be detailed. We don't have to really figure out where the piston and the stamen are on a water lily. We're not that close to it. Pretend like you're viewing it from the bridge or from the path. So here's my piece that I've started to tape down. I'm just going to add a little more tape, about a 1/4 inch of the way on the edge of the paper. It makes a nice little border when you pull it up side of the way. Make sure that you go all the way around. Just give it a nice little finger press. Okay? Now, I don't know if the lighting is that great, so I'm going to make sure you can see all of that. Okay? Alright, now what I'm going to do is use a blue pencil, but you guys can use your school pencil or your HD pencil like this. That's fine. Okay, let's start by drawing the water lilies. So I'm going to do one, let's see, a couple, like a pairing up here at the top, and you can follow along or you can put your blobs wherever you want. I'm drawing to you. I turned mine around, so it should look like it's drawing to you. Now what I'm going to do is put another one right here. Maybe a grouping of 3. Maybe I want to have 3 right here. I love odd numbers, so while this one has 2, it might have a little water lily on it later. Let's see, maybe I put one over here. It's a pond. It's going to be full of a lot of different lilies onto the pond. So I'm definitely going to fill up the page with a bunch of water lilies. And I'll have one that goes off the page. I like when you engage the edges and you can really see different shapes, a variety of shapes and things that go off the page. All right. Now I'm going to do a small single one all by himself. And yours can be bigger than mine. It don't have to be the same. I'm just doing oval shapes. Sometimes I put a little bite in it. You know how the water lily has a little C shape in its pad. And so that's why I created this little hook right there. All right, how about one big one right here? I think this is going to be my focal point. So I'm going to put a big pad right here. And then I think this is where I'm going to have my lily. So think of the lily as a flower. It is. And it's going to have elongated ovals. And I'm drawing from the center of my lily. I'm just going back and forth, making a multitude of elongated ovals that I'm going to then paint in. I didn't count how many. This is an impressionistic painting. It's not going to have to be realism as to really how my lily looks. I think Monet loved how I'm blocking these in. It was always misty, in France, and he could work in oil because oil and water don't mix. And he could just block in where everything is, and he could go back in the studio and work on those huge panels. Those panels were 6 feet. I'm not kidding you, they're huge. And he was able to get enough panels before the war started, or enough supplies even before the war started, World War I I'm talking about, that really, think about it. When you're working on 4 6-foot size panels, that's going to sustain you for a while. Not like you have to run out to a market and try to find another canvas or some paints. His son was away during World War I, and this really helped him to just be calm and reflective. So I think at a time like what we've been dealing with, it's interesting that I chose this before I even knew what would be going on this past 2 weeks. And sometimes we need time to just reflect and be able to look at things with a very clear mind, a restful mind. You know, how did we get here? Where do we want to go? And I find this painting to be that for me. I think it's very restful. Okay, so I've got a grouping here. I've got one coming in down at the bottom of the page. So you can see how I've kind of marched my way through my lily pad. I'm going to put, I think I need something over here. So I'm going to put a grouping of 2 with a little lip over here. Yay! I hope that's helpful, if you can see all that. All right, I drew mine again in the watercolor pencil. It means I'm going to have to do a little work to get rid of some of my blue lines I didn't want blue. You do not have to do that. If you're drawing in pencil, I should have told you at the beginning, draw as lightly as you can, because you will see your pencil lines through watercolor. If you drew too heavy, take your eraser right now and just kind of rub it over and lighten up that graphite so that the graphite is not going to come through on a lot of your watercolor. I can even use it to lighten up my watercolor pencil before I start adding water to this picture. All right, now let's start painting. I'm going to use this big brush, and I'm going to start with layering. Oh, you know what? I think I want a lily right here. There needs to be another, like a medium-sized lily from the side right here. So I'm going to add that little guy. Yeah. And while you're working, you may end up putting some that didn't quite open on some of the other pads. But we're going to paint around the pads right now. So that means we're going to paint the water surface itself. And what is water? Well, water is clear. Water is not a color. It's just a reflection of the sky, and it's a reflection of what's also, you know, the trees and all the vegetation around it. You may be seeing the bottom of the pond, so there may be green and some darkness. So you could use any of your cool colors. You could use a warm color. I'm going to start out using what I have in front of me. I'm going to use some blue. Whenever I start to run out of blue, like that one's really getting kind of low right there, I can use some tube paint. Like I'll just go buy a little bit of blue and I'll just squirt it in here, because I really like the way I can store my paints in these little wells. And you use this side to mix on. I bet you didn't even know what the cover is for. It took me a few years to learn that. Okay, so that's where I'm going to do the mixing. So I'm going to put a little blue. I already have a little bit of green. It doesn't take much. We're just using a wash. We're not going to go heavy. This is going to be a layering of color. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start up here at the top of my painting and put a layer of what looks like kind of muddy blue. It's not real bright. I don't know what blue you have, but if you need to muddy it down a little bit, you could add a little bit of green to it, some purple, some sienna brown to it. And I'm just going to layer it. If you want to have some white spots in your painting, like you don't want to have you want to have like a bright glare happening, don't paint that area. Just kind of skip it, go around it. So I'm just going to do my first layer. Oh, I get a little bit of green in there. That's good. This is very calming. This is a really good exercise too before you do another medium, like you're trying to figure out what colors to use for a fiber art or a collage or even your acrylic paints, because you haven't, these are pretty inexpensive and you can figure out what two color choices you're going to do. Always keep a napkin handy too. I don't think I mentioned that, but I do have some napkins handy, and I like to, like if I'm getting too wet on the brush, I'll just dab it over here on my napkin. I know you can't see my original right this minute, but from time to time, I will bring it forward and let you see it, but I don't think you need it right this minute while we're working. Remember I mentioned about propping up my painting? A lot of times I'll put these little weights. You can put a book under there, anything, because I kind of want it to go this direction. So that way I'm working at an angle a little bit. Just a slight angle, maybe like 10 degrees. Right. Adding a little more for my background, a little bit of purple maybe this time. I don't care if it gets on the lily pads, because green is made up of blue, the color of the lily pad. So now I've got some different shades of cool colors going on. If I get it into the lily pad, that's going to be okay, right? But I could also take, if I don't really want that, I could take my little sponge and just dab at it and get some of the excess of the pool away from there. Okay. I think I've got every place I really wanted my first layer. Now we're going to move to the lily pads. So you could go straight up green, right? You could just use the green that you have. Or you could make up your own green. For the sake of my first wash, I think I'm just going to use the green that's in my palette right here. Yes, my palette's very messy. I don't clean all the time because I'm painting all the time. Okay, so I'm going to put a nice little wash of green onto those little pads. Love that it's kind of mixing with some of the purple. I got to work a little harder because I have a blue watercolor pencil, so don't scrub as much as I'm scrubbing. If you scrub the paper, you're actually going to create where you're wearing it down, because water breaks it down. So don't scrub. Like put a wash on and leave it. Go to the next pad. We're going to be moving around the paper. I live here in Arizona and things dry really quickly, so I'm able to put the next layer on pretty quickly. But if you're like in Colorado, which I think some of you are today, I can see some of the names up there, or maybe you're in New Jersey, it may be more moisture in the air. It may take it longer for you to go to the next layer. And that's when, if you really enjoy doing this, get out a hair dryer, right? Or just go take a break, take a walk, go get some coffee, come back, and you can go to the next layer. I'm glad I drew this in blue for you so you can actually see it better. I'm really not, I don't want it to be soppy. I don't want a pool, a swimming pool in the middle of my paper. So if you've got a pool, you need to really take your napkin and dab that up. All your lily pads do not have to be the same color, right? You could make one a little bit more teal for the base color. This is called the base color. I'm going to make this one a little bit Maybe I'll make that one in the middle have some white spots on it because I really want this flower to shine a little bit more. So I'm going to leave some whiteness on there. Watercolor, as you noticed in your pan, there is no white. They don't make white unless you go get it in the tube or in a already caked form. And it really has a opacity to it. It is not, they're not able to manufacture white watercolor cake. It's really difficult. White is titanium, it's a metal. All these things, you could be a scientist and enjoy art. Okay, so I have a nice little layering so far for my water and lily pads. I hope I'm not going too fast, but we do have a lot of layering to do, a lot to do. Now I'm going to think about my flower color. So I want to bring out my original again so you can see it. I went with red because I'm a kind of a color girl. I don't like things to be really washed out. So I want to say that Mr. Monet's were more yellow with a hint of pink on them. I don't think that he has any that are really bright. At least I haven't seen them. But I'm going to make it mine. You make it how you want to make it. I like colors, so I'm going to take now a number 6 round brush and putting down my big one. I'm going with a smaller one. Now it's round because it's round in shape. It's not flat. And everything in nature is round, so it makes sense to use the round brush for a round object. These colors were round. So I'm going to look now for a pretty color. I'm going to wash out my red. Don't use solid red. This is watercolor, which means that you're going to dip it in the water. I have a big watercolor cup right here so I don't drink. It's blue so I don't mistake it for my drinking cup. And I'm going to use this color to fill in my flower. And you can see that it's mixing with my blue pencil and making it purple. Leave areas white that you want it to glow. So, because we're not using any white or cake today. So if you want it to have some white areas, don't fill it in. And look, I have spots now all over. Some caterpillar just popped from one frog hopped from one lily pad to the next. So dab things, when you dribble and drop things and you don't want them, go ahead and get them quick because you can't get it off once it's dry. And I couldn't even get that off fast enough like this. Okay, so I'm filling in this water lily. I can put this one closer to it so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm just kind of dibbling and dabbing at it. I might put some oranges and yellows in there later. You could travel with your watercolors. That's easy to do. They dry like a cake. They call them watercolor cakes. So you could make your own. I have a recipe for making my own. You see what you have in the kitchen. Email me. I'll be happy to share that with you. It's even better, the homemade ones, because they have corn syrup in them and they're shiny. Okay, so I'm just getting my flour established while everything else is drying. I have a plan. Now I do have this little guy up here. I don't want to make him as dark because I don't want him competing. My focus is going to be right here, so you have to think about your composition. So this one's going to be really light. So I'm going to use mostly water. and move a lot of light. Again, it's mixing with my blue pencil, so I'm getting more purple today. Just like Monet, he painted it, I don't know, 8 times, 7 times. He got a different look. He liked to study the seasons, the different seasons that you would see it, fall, spring. And the lighting, all this lighting was big for him. Studying things with a different light. This is so fun. It's so fun to experiment with color and different brushes. This may not be your ultimate masterpiece today where you're just like so happy with it, but you will have learned so much about just how to control the water, how to avoid certain colors or mix certain colors. Okay, so now my top of my painting is pretty dry. I mean, I can rub my hand across this and I'm not picking up anything at all. So now's my time to start adding some more color onto it. I think what I'd like to do at this point is make more of a, maybe a teal green. So I'm going to take some of the teal. This time I'm using my smaller brush, not my big one. I'm putting a little green into the palette. I've got a little blue still left there. So I'm making up a new green, or a new blue. It's a blue green. Kind of muddy looking, I think. I think it needs a little bit more blue. Okay, so I've got my palette where I think I like it, and I'm just going to start putting it in dibbles and dabs like an impressionistic painting over that last layer. So you can see up here at the top where I'm putting a little bit of that teal back over what I originally done. I could go like this, you could tap at it. I could put my brush in the water, so it's mostly water, less tint. And if it's going to get too runny on you, you can take that sponge, you can kind of dab at it. But remember, we're trying to reflect sky, the trees above, so it's okay if you've got green in there. I'll put a little green in there. Try not to keep going back and forth over the same area. Keep moving down the page, and you can come back and we'll do a third layer of water. If you keep going over and over the same place, you're going to probably make a muddy mess, and you're going to be sad when you rub a hole in your paper. So, watercolor, you got to kind of just work in layers, move around. I'm going to take advantage of some of my blue watercolor pencil here and mix it with the green. Yeah. Try a little purple, right? Purple's nice. Nice deep color. Kind of fun. You get to choose what colors you like the best and where you want to put them. Try not to go too dark too fast. You can use the same color. So right here I put purple on top of purple and it gets darker. So you could use the same color you use the first pass and you'll get a darker value. If it's dripping into your pad, you don't want it, just Dab it away. The thing with water is you can't control it. It's going to go wherever it wants to go. So try to just go with it and let it make its beauty all its own. It's kind of a mystery how it flows. And just kind of working down. Making my way down here, painting away. And just adding more color as I go, either the same color or some more cool colors. I think I need a little more teal. A little more teal in there. You can get in between the flower petals itself if you want, or leave it white. Like maybe you got too dark on the flower to begin with, so you want to keep maybe water light around the flower. I thought this would be a really good subject matter for everyone, especially if this is your first time as a beginner watercolorist. And consider yourself a watercolorist. You're doing it because you really can't go wrong. You're painting water with water, so don't be frustrated with yourself at all. Okay, so I'm going to let that kind of sit with itself for a moment. I don't want to get too much on there. I'm going to go back to the lily pads now. So my lily pads need some definition. They'll just look like stepping stones, and I want to dirty those up as well. So I could go back to my green. It's just like acrylic painting. You want to have the darks and lights of things to create value. So I'm putting a little yellow-green together here, and maybe just a tad of some blue in there. You could try purple too in just a second, but let's see what just making some yellow-green. So I'm going to put a little of that in here, just because I want to separate these two, like how they look next to each other. But I'm not going to color the whole thing in. I'm just going to kind of, it's got to glisten. It's in the water. So I don't want to put a whole second pass of lime green on top of my initial green. Put some over here. This is so hard for me to teach you all on the other end without seeing how you're doing, what you're doing. But I don't want you to pick up your art right now because it will drip. We have a great program, City of Goodyear, called Creative Aging for those 60 and over. Maybe you're wanting to try a new skill in life or just keep your brain active or meet some new friends. I have been fortunate enough to work with the Creative Aging in the city for the last 3 years, so it's a nice meeting on a weekly basis and creating. Now we're doing it online. Ta-da! Okay, remember I said I might want to add some purple to some of these, but that one I didn't do anything, so maybe that's a good purple. I know you can't see my palette, too much of my palette here, but I could turn it. I still probably can't see the whole thing. See, that's kind of a muddier green with purple. That's okay. I kind of like that one. It's okay if it looks a little cheeky green. Okay, so I did a second pass now over the water lilies and the water. I think it's time now to do a second pass on my lilies themselves. So this time I want to try a little orange and yellow. Maybe you just want to be a yellow water lily like the traditional lilies. So I'm going to stick my brush in. I contaminated my yellow a little bit. I double dipped. If you ever do that, I don't know if you knew you could do this, but you just take your napkin and just dab and try to get some of that top green off your yellow, like putting peanut butter in your chocolate. So that chocolate and peanut butter are better than having green permanently stuck in your yellow. Okay, so I've redeemed my yellow there. Don't worry if your brush is losing a few hairs. You can flick them off at the end because there's no drying agent like acrylic paint where the hair is going to stick in the painting. You'll be able after it's dry to get those little hairs off of it. Oh, and you can take your finger, by the way, and hit the surface of the painting and get some interesting little movement and dabs and dots if it's wet. I use salt sometimes too to absorb. That makes a fun pattern, but we're not going to do that today. Okay, so I got a little yellow on my brush. Oh gosh, I love adding just that little hints of yellow. It's a bright color. It's mixing with the red. It's also mixing with the blue. And I'm getting a little orange with the red. The opposite of yellow is purple in color wheels. So whenever it's hitting some of my purple, I'm getting a nice shadow color. But these are things you'll learn the more that you experiment. Get a color wheel if that would help you. I highly recommend it. So I'm just adding little dabs of yellow. I think this one definitely looks yellow. And maybe there's one just peeking out of the water over here where I didn't put him. He's diving. I can't even see the pad. And maybe there's a little yellow piece sticking in there. Well, I've got yellow in my brush. Okay, let's try a little orange. You might have the Crayola brand watercolors, anything. I think actually they're anything Crayola does is pretty good. I don't like some of the other brands, but I will be nice. You can email me and we can discuss what you have or what you might want to invest in if you really like it. I'm going to put a little orange in there, just a tiny bit. It's amazing that you think this brush is so thick and big, but it will make the nicest little point with very little color on the tip. Just makes some nice little dabs. Can you believe it? We're already at the halfway mark. See, this is such a nice little break in your day. You feel like you accomplished something. Okay, guess what? I'm going back again to the third layer. If I had masking on here, and what is masking? Masking means like maybe you wanted to have some rubber cement or some mascoid on there. Because what if I really just wanted to keep this area white? Then I would put some of that on there so that next time I put a layer on, I'm not going to get the blue on top of that white area. Sometimes too, I use saran wrap. So whenever this is really wet, I will put that on there. And you can try this later at your own convenience, but it's really fun. And you just leave it on there for 2 hours. And when you peel it up, you're going to get some really interesting marks on your paper that look like water. I use this for water a lot. So, yes, it's just saran wrap out of the kitchen. But it's really fun to make it kind of crinkly and look ripply in the water. But we didn't have enough time to make things dry today, so that's just a little tip to try later. All right, let's do the next layer. So this time I'm going to go deeper. I'm going deeper into the water. Oh no. So I really want contrast, right? So look, I'm popping up that blue and that purple off on my page. Kind of dibbing and dabbing at it. Take my finger. It's just watercolor. It's going to come off really easily. You could, if you've got too much and you don't like it, just dab it quickly with your tissue. I'm going to use purple. Maybe a little bit of violet in there. Maybe it's reflecting some of the wisteria. Wow. This is where you're just building up layers, making interest. So maybe there's a shadow in there. Maybe I need to put a little bit of that purple behind this water lily. And while we're putting the third layer on, I'll let Miss Rosie talk to you for a second. Can't see her face today. But I'll let her talk to you for a second. She's going to tell you about where you can donate to my social media sites that will take a tip if you so feel desired. By all means, do not feel like you have to. This is a free class, as I said. And the only thing it would help me do is continue to do all of my art studies, bring you quality programs, continue to do what I love as a professional artist, and keep me from going back into being in corporate, which is why I left to come do this. So I hope that you're enjoying yourself, and she will talk to you for a second while everybody's putting their third layers on here.
All right. So I will go ahead and include all of Deborah's tipping options down below on our chat box. You will have to type in those links, those URLs and those codes directly into a browser. And once you get those on the browser, you can direct them to her and personalize them with her codes, and I will link all of those below. And like Deborah said, it's a huge deal that she is doing these classes for us and taking her time to offer these classes, and especially these classes during the day. I think it's great what she does, and it's just a thank you to her. So I will leave those down below here in the chat box, and if you have any questions, definitely email me, or you can direct them to me personally here on Zoom.
Thank you, Rosie. That was really kind of you. I'm fortunate to live in a city, and Rosie works for the Department of Parks and Recs for the city of Goodyear. And so it's been nice to be able to partner with arts and culture, which falls under Parks and Recs, as activities to do that are healthy for you. And believe it or not, art is an activity. It may not seem like a physical one, but I can tell you it can be very physical. especially some of those dots we were doing on the cherry blossoms last week. Some of you had some really good arm movement going on. And I think this is really good for your mind. So you get to rest in your right brain. Sometimes you hear me pause because it's really tough to go back and forth from my speech in my left brain to being creative in my right brain. So I apologize for some of my pauses, but it's really because I'm switching back and forth here to talk. I don't normally talk to myself when I do it. Although my kids might say I might be talking to myself. My grown kids, I should say. Okay, so I'm just putting that third pass over the water lilies, water pond, not the lilies yet. Now I'm ready to go on to the lilies. Okay, this time I'm just going to streak some beautiful greens. I'm not going to mix so much. I'm just going to take whatever I have. Not so much water this time. Maybe just getting it on that smaller brush. The 6, not the big one. And I might, you know how water lilies have a vein? So I might be streaking a little vein in there. Or maybe you have a little frog print sticking on there somewhere. I call this dirtying up. Dirtying up the pad, making little places where the pad might have deteriorated. Maybe it was half eaten by something. Maybe it's bent down into the water. So you're really just dirtying it up. You're putting in veins and things that give it character. Nothing is clean and perfect in art, so I want you to feel free that this is an opportunity to even correct something that you felt like, oh my gosh, my oval looks like a square. Well, now you can cover that up, make it into something else. No perfect. All right, so now we've got a few of those. You know what I'm going to do at this time? I'm going to go back to that flower, believe it or not, and I am going to add a little more brightness to it. So it's kind of looking like it's in the same value. I squint at things to see if it's actually standing out. And so when I squint at this, I can tell this is almost the same value as some of the greens and purples around it. So I'm really going to try to pop it up a little bit. And I will put my original kind of right next to it so that you can see how much this one's popped up than this one. So I want to really get it to that level. And because it would be a little bit darker next to the center of the lily, I'm going to do that by concentrating right there near the center as it's growing out toward the sunlight. Yeah, that's really cool. You can even you can talk to yourself. You're allowed to talk to yourself if you tell yourself, that's really cool. Or, oh my gosh, what did I just do? But go right back into your right brain. Because nobody else is standing over you. Oh, that's really cool. I can only draw a stick figure. How many times has somebody said that to you? You can say, no, you could join into the Tuesday Tondo class and learn. Our brains need to be used, or we use it. Things I've learned in my creative agent training is they're all about stimulating the brain. So it's not just enough for me to bring you a pretty picture and say, okay, follow along, but to learn technique and art history. That's my goal when I do these things, that we actually learn new words, we learn about other artists. I do that with my younger students too. I teach as young as 5. I teach special needs every week. A little bit of that red violet just mix some of your purple with the red, and that's how I'm getting a little of that red violet in there, and that's starting to pop. Yeah, I've got a little guy, it's kind of hanging off over here. I'm just going to put a little tab of red violet there, maybe a little bit over here. Oh, maybe, because that red violet acts as a nice little shadow underneath what might be there, like a bloom that hasn't quite opened. Okay, I'm also going to take some of this red violet, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'm going to use it to actually see if I could put in a little shadow, you know, where that tongue or that U-shaped C was with my lily pad. I'm going to separate them a little bit more, like a shadow. I'm always into purple shadows, kind of my thing, my signature. Don't use black. Black covers everything. It's an opaque, not even a color, so I won't call it a color. It's not on the wheel. But it will muddy everything else up. Yeah, so I'm just adding a little bit. I'm barely touching the canvas. This is a canvas. Anything you paint on is a canvas. It could be a toilet that you paint. And I have painted one of those before. It could be a wall, it could be your shoe. So this paper is your canvas. And I'm barely touching it. Okay, so I don't think it matters where you put your shadows, just be consistent. Remember I said that we could be viewing this from different ways, but the sun never changes. So if Mr. Sun is right here, he's casting shadows that are going to be on the right or to you, the left side of my lily pad. So I'm going to have it over. But later I could turn this thing, the whole painting, upside down, but at least my shadows were consistent with it. Leave it a little bit darker in there because it's got a flower. I'm barely touching the surface. Okay, I think I want to add a little more teal too to the underneath of those lily pads. So all I'm going to do is mix up some blue and some green. This little teal color. So I think I really want to give those lily pads a little dimension. They're not just a flat pancake. Speaking of pancakes, okay, so Saturday we're doing PJs and art. So that means you could just show up Saturday and do some art with me. You don't have to be in your PJs. I can't be in my PJs. That would look very cool to you guys. But this will be, I think this will be our third class at doing a Saturday morning at 9 o'clock Arizona time. And we are doing a cat. I just thought I would do something a little bit more whimsical for the younger crowd, but any crowd, like you could bring anybody and do it as complicated or as simple as you want. So we're going to do a cat portrait, and I will show that to you in just a second when I tilt my camera back up. But that's going to be 9 o'clock Saturday. You can show the whole cat face, or you can just show the body and the head, walking on your piano if you want, or sitting in your room. But we're going to do it in acrylic paint, so not watercolor, but you could do it in watercolor. And I know some of you do, that's all you have, and you chime in on occasion and you tell me, hey, I'm doing this in watercolor and not acrylics. It's okay, but now you need to know that it's going to take a little bit more drying time in your part. Okay, remember I said I love markers. So with this last 10 minutes, I really want to show you use of the markers. You can have a whole new set like the Crayola ones like this, but I actually prefer the not new ones. You can still use the new ones, but here's some. I just keep them in a bin, and everybody says, Miss Crowley, I have my students over. They don't work. They're all dry. I'm like, yeah, they do. They work just great. Because you just take the water and dip your marker into the water. I know. It's like magic. It freaks everybody out. Okay, mine's a little drippy, but I'm going to just dab it on there. And I can actually use it on my painting to give a few more hints. Oh, I need to dip it again. You could also put it onto the painting. Look, I'm just dribbling it. And then I could take my brush and my sponge. And it's mixing with some of the colors that I already have there. Brush. Yeah. There's my brush. Well, that's fun to try if you do have those. I think we used them last time we had our lunchtime art on our Asian art. Okay, so maybe I just want to use a little bit of the green. Ooh. And this is where I could take my brush. And I can just see it's water soluble, so once you add water to it, it's just fine. I can color right onto the paper. And those are easy to travel with to throw into your bag. So feel free to experiment with them. I think they're good to take on a camping trip. Because you could use them dry or wet. If you're trying to conserve your water or you have no river or stream right next to you. So if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat, and Rosie can read them to me in these few minutes that we've got. You can always do that at any time, by the way. And she gets my attention, and I can answer them. So looks like we have the 4 things in the chat. I'm just going to see what they are. Oh, it's the links to my donation sites. See, I can't talk. Wow, I bet yours is looking great. I mean, this is something that you can definitely frame. And speaking of framing, this is raw. And you will have to put it behind plexiglass or glass when it's dry because it will deteriorate. It will, somebody will brush against it, touch it with wet or oily hands. It will disintegrate over time. So you do want to protect the watercolors. The other thing that you want to be aware of is when you do frame it, you want to make sure that when you sign your name, it's within the frame. So like in my original piece here, I actually put my name down here. But it's an inch off the bottom and an inch and a half off the side. So if I do frame it, then I have space to do that. You can see that I put an interesting little window. I tried to create a little bit more interest in this painting. So I'm going to do that at this point. You do not have to do that. I just think it's kind of fun to add a little whimsy. I am a fiber artist as well, and so I love drawing with my sewing needle, and I could see myself doing some kind of zigzagging or something around this piece, and it would be really fun to draw attention to my lily in a different way, the unexpected, but it also looks like ripples in the water, doesn't it? So you have artist license to make it how you want to make it, and you should. I mean, you can draw Monet's water lilies just like he does it, but be careful that something more than, or I should say less than 75 years, you don't want to copy it verbatim because without the permission of the artist. See, that's kind of fun. Just a little ripple around my main focus. I don't know. I just made that up. It's kind of fun. I'll put a little purple around it. So we're almost at our stopping point where I would love to see what you're doing. Do not pick up your work if yours is really wet. I don't want you to have a big drip. That would be horrible. But I'm almost complete with this. And then what I like to do is sign my name. And I'll just put a GLLEY like that. And voila. I'm going to lift up my camera now with the few minutes we have left. If you have any questions, just put them into the chat for me. That would be really great. Ah. I need to move myself back. Wow. Okay, so there's this one that I just did with you all. And here is this one. A little bit larger paper before because I wasn't sure if I could stand and do it. So you can use any size paper, of course. Any questions? Type them in below if you had any questions about the products that I'm using. I did add a little bit of the tube light. Oh my gosh, that looks great! I have my first viewer, my first artist showing me their beautiful watercolor. And let me show you a piece that one of my students did with just very impressionism. So this is Haley's, and she just did the yellow blobs and the pink blobs, and she actually used oil pastels because she wanted it to be more graphic, like just round blobs. So that's an interesting way. And then you almost see like this is cloud, and there's a big deepness in the pond. Okay, so here is Monet's, right? And we see a lot of mossy, grassy stuff. Oh, I was going to show you some other thing while everybody's kind of waiting to show me. Okay, here's Mr. Kitty Cat. Woo! Okay, so, yeah, my face is smaller than his face. But you do not have to do a big portrait kitty cat. This is what I'll be drawing, but if you're more, wanting to do a kitty cat walking on the piano, you can do it in watercolor, but at least you'll draw the face along with me, and then you can decide how you want to portray him. Maybe you want to make a Mondrian out of it and do it in red and yellow and blue. That would be fun. So that's Saturday at 9 o'clock. And then on the following Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, we're going to do sweet pineapples. Woohoo! In acrylics again. That'll be fun. 5:45 in the evening on Thursday evening, Arizona time. And then, if you really love this Tuesday time frame and you're really liking working with the watercolors, we are going to look at another one of Monet's pieces, and we're going to do Venice. But we're going to use mostly the markers this time. So if you have a set of those markers, right, or the old ones that are water soluble, you can test for markers and find out if they're water soluble easily. Just dip them in the water and see if they actually are painterly. If they're not moving, then they're more permanent. I'm not going to do anything for you. Anybody else want to show me their work? We got about 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, that is gorgeous. I really love that. I really love that. I love the layering everyone has really done. You know, you didn't try to stay in one area and work it to that. You really moved around the painting. Really nice. I know I only see a couple of tiles up on my screen, so if there is somebody showing me their work right now, I may not be seeing you because I only have like 9 squares in front of me. But you can always email me your artwork if I'm not commenting right now and seeing it. You can email me at deborah@deborahgoleyart.com. And I think she said she has that in the chat. There's my email address so that you can send me your work and I can see it. If you want me to make a comment about it, I can do that too.
And I've also included the link to our class this Saturday. If you want to register for that, the link is down in the chat box. So just go ahead and follow that link and it'll direct you to our registration site and you will register for Saturday's class. I will also let everyone speak to Deborah, so I'm going to unmute all microphones just in case anyone wants to say anything.